and welcome. Very good afternoon. You're watching the latest here on Mirror Now. I am Afrida Rahman Ali. We begin with the latest coming in on the Prime Minister's video conference meeting with state chief ministers and Union Territory chief ministers. Once again today, the meeting will start at 3 p.m. The agenda of the meeting is to take stock of the ground situation with specific inputs from respective states and then devise a further plan of action, the roadmap for India in its battle against COVID-19 to be decided, particularly with respect to the lockdown relaxation. Remember, lockdown 3.0 to end on the 17th of May. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold this meeting via video conferencing to discuss the next strategy for the lockdown. Focus of the meeting will be to increase economic activities across the states and to tackle the pandemic in the containment zones. Ayushman joining me live on what's on the agenda for the Prime Minister. So Ayushman, as we all know, the Prime Minister's office has been closely monitoring each and every specific challenge that the country is facing right now due to the pandemic. And the biggest balancing act that the government requires to do is between restoring economic activity and, of course, restricting the spread of the virus, and how a strategy can be worked out and in consultation with the state chief ministers perhaps would be the focus. But tell us a little bit more about what's on the agenda for discussion in today's video conference meeting between the Prime Minister and the state chief ministers.
Well, Afrida, this is the fifth meeting that the Prime Minister will be having with the Chief Minister via video conferencing. And unlike last time where we saw only 9 of the Chief Ministers speaking to the Prime Minister, this time we will have an extended session where every Chief Minister will be giving their feedback on the containment strategy, the lockdown strategy, and the economic activities, how it can be improved. Currently, the most important focus will be the economic activities, how the resumption can take place, not to forget the fact that we have over 130 districts in the red zone. And the containment strategies in these areas, basically most of the metro cities are there in these red zones. So the containment strategy will be a challenge, and how states assure the center that the containment strategy will remain intact even after those 7 days. The roadmap for the months that are coming ahead, and the number that we are seeing currently, Afrida, that will be discussed. We have seen the migration of migrant laborers. So the industry functions will also be discussed. It is also being said that the resumption of economic activities in the states will be discussed on priority. The disruption of supply chain and the availability of labor will also be discussed. Unlike the last time, this time all these CMs will be speaking. This will be held in 2 sessions, and it's a very important meeting ahead of we are going to witness today that Prime Minister will be interacting with the chief ministers of all the states.
Right. And the challenge, like you said, at this point, and it's all interconnected, whether it is the resumption of supply chain or the migrant movement for that matter. So, Ayushman, there needs to be a lot of coordination and cooperation, and it has to be a collaborative effort between states as well in terms of how the labor movement now will help or rather will be a setback for the resumption of industry, especially for the labor-intensive industries at a time when the government is facilitating the workers to go back to their native places. How is it at the same time going to make sure that industries that are dependent on the workforce restart?
Well, that will remain a challenge, Afrida, because the center will be talking to states on that only, and states will also cite their problems because the migrants movement has been one of the core concern, and that is the reason you are seeing more than 100 of the Shramik specials have run, or more than 4 lakh of the migrant laborers have been sent to the native states now. How does the industry work, and what will be the road plan? That will be discussed when the Prime Minister meets the chief ministers. Not to forget, Afrida, that the COVID cases in the first week of May have seen a huge spike. We have seen record number of cases coming every day, and that will definitely be discussed, because if you see the current scenario right now, India is it is somewhere touching the mark of 70,000 positive cases. And as the days of lockdown increase, the testing, unlike what we have seen in other countries, the tests have increased, and so have the people turning positive. So that will remain a core concern as to what is the containment strategy that states and center need to follow from here, because that will be the moot point which all the
Okay.
economic activities and all the resumption of activities will revolve around.
Absolutely. The containment strategy, the mitigation policy, the migrant movement as well, keeping in view that industries are now looking at opening out. All of this will be discussed, and we'll update our viewers with the live inputs when that conference happens. Thanks for joining us, Ayushman, with your inputs on the story.